Out of all the quarterbacks that I've scouted in the past, say, 5 to 10 years, Josh Allen is the one guy that I can't pinpoint what he's exactly going to be. There's so many variables in play, and we're going to talk about it right now. Brendan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. There are some scouts that love Josh Allen. There are some scouts that think he's going to be a complete bust and that he doesn't have the accuracy. So let's try to find that in between and see what he actually is.
Well, I mean, what he actually is, Adrian, is a generational arm talent. I mean, what he has on the attach of his right shoulder is something that the NFL sees maybe every decade at best. It is something special what he has.
Yeah. And I'm just going to tell you guys right now. So I'll or should I wait for the top 5?
Let's hold it. Let's hold it.
Okay, we'll hold it. But what we're not going to hold is this arm talent. And I mean, you said it. It's a generational type of arm, so we don't have to say that it's the best in the class. All you got to do is just look at the tape. I mean, he throws the best deep ball in this draft.
No question about it. I mean, you're going to see a ball. It's a 60-yard throw and a freaking drop it in a dime moment here. Just perfect here for a throw. I mean, it's a 60-yard ball. It's just – I mean, there's nothing to say. It's one of those throws just like, yep, he can do that pretty good.
And it's easy. Look how easy this comes out of his hand.
Shit, yeah. I mean, and you know what? It's front foot's hitting, release is coming through, receivers running underneath it. I mean, yeah, it's Central Michigan. I get it. But you know what? He's also playing around with Wyoming talent. So it's not like he's running around 5 stars, playing a bunch of guys at 1 stars. It's pretty much 1 stars all across the board.
Yeah. All right, there's been a player comparison that a lot of people are making, and it's Carson Wentz, and there's a reason for that. Because he has the athleticism to make people miss in the backfield and keep his eyes downfield and make throws like this. This is sick.
I mean, it's a rollout. It's rollout right, and then it's just, hey, I'm going to have my tight end. Hey, go hit me at the mailbox, and I'm going to drop it in the basket here. And both back-to-back of these throws are just sweet, man, the ones that you're looking at. All of these throws that he's making, they're just generational things. I mean, his arm talent is unbelievable. He has a good enough of athletic ability to extend plays. He's not Michael Vick out there. I don't think there's a huge gap between him and Baker. Obviously, Baker, you see it more, but Josh's ability to make plays happen is really impressive, especially because he's not playing with a lot of Wyoming talent. And even against that Iowa example clip we have here, Adrian's a great example. That wasn't a touchdown. I mean, the play was not ruled a touchdown. And, I mean, that hit him right in the freaking face mask, man. I mean, it was a perfect throw.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that later because I think the last clip kind of illustrates the lack of talent that Wyoming did have. But I'll tell you what, there are more clips that I could have included in this film study that illustrated exactly this. The athleticism, making people miss in the backfield, keeping his eyes downfield. And as you can see right here, I mean, these throws are perfect. Stepping up into the pocket and throwing dimes. All these are freaking absolute dimes. They're not actually – you know what? That's a lie. They're not dimes. They're quarters. That's what they are. Man,
they're sweet. I mean, that's flat out what they are, is they're awesome throws. His arm talent is really special. And the other thing that I think is so cool about this, only one of these throws that we saw was he actually having in a clean pocket. I mean, all this stuff he's done – that one, making a move. Nebraska tape, making a move at Boise on the blue turf here. All these throws, he has to make a guy miss, and then he's able to put a nice ball in for 6. All right, next thing. We kind of saw a little bit of this if you saw me overrun on the clips. But, again, it's the arm talent. It's the ability to thread the needle. I mean, this is a freaking laser. It is, and it's splitting right in between the end zone view. You're going to see, guys, how tight this window is. Yep. It's sweet. So let me kind of talk about the praise here. He has an arm talent that he can force balls in that normal people can't throw. So that's a good thing and it's a bad thing because sometimes he might get you in situations where he shouldn't make throws like that. That's a tight window. Yeah. Now, backside, when we watch this again, watch his weight transfer. His weight transfer is not great. You see how he's almost falling too far forward. He's not really in a good base position. This is because he's overextending. You're going to see that front foot's going to overextend, and now his shoulders are going to start to fall forward. The good news for him, very similar to Stafford and Ben, so much freaking arm talented, it doesn't matter, but his lower base as much. I say a guy like Andy Dalton or Kirk Cousins, who has to be throwing on platform. Otherwise, it doesn't look pretty at all. But this is something that really needs to improve for Rosen. He needs to improve at working on his platform and his base.
Yeah, and the thing is, his arm talent is so exceptional that he doesn't have to throw with anticipation. He can kind of wait for the receiver to make his break. And that's actually something that John Elway did when he broke into the league initially. Just didn't really have to go through his reads because his arm talent was so damn good. So there you go. All right, next thing we're going to look at. So he spins out of pressure in the backfield, and he's able to complete an out route. So there you go. He spins to his left, and he just throws another rocket here.
I mean, that's like a 45-yard rope, right? I mean, a 45-yard throw, that's not really that hard to make in the NFL. But 45 yards with a low trajectory, and this ball is a freaking missile, is really damn hard, especially when you're a right-handed quarterback rolling to your left. There's a lot of hard things going on here. This is really freaking impressive. Arm strength, man, like I said, it's unbelievable what he's got attached to that right shoulder.
Yep. And just one more example of the arm strength. It's easy velocity. And I think the one throw that scouts might look at most, correct me if I'm wrong here, the deep out route. And if you can throw this ball like the way he does, it's so easy coming out of his hand.
And it's not even just the deep out route, Adrian. It's the deep out route on the right hash, throwing to the left.
Yes.
So let me kind of take you guys behind the curtain a little bit. When I was working at IMG Academy and I was working with Coach Winky, and we would build out quarterback scripts, right? We would build out the scripts for their pro days. We always wanted to either end or start with a throw that was going to the opposite hash starting on the right hash, outbreaking route to the opposite way of the right-handed or left-handed quarterback, because we knew this is what NFL quarterbacks coaches wanted to see. This is a freaking dime, man. 3-step drop, hit the back foot, let it rip, get that ball outside, out by the bottom of the numbers where your receiver can hit it, and then take 2 steps out of bounds. Just an awesome ball here.
And it's also harder to throw left than it is to throw right.
Exactly.
For right-handed quarterback. So you're seeing opposite hash, throwing left, deep out, and that is a dime.
And the thing that people don't necessarily understand is it's harder because it's hard to get your hip through. So that right side, he brings the hip through, elbow through, knee through, foot through, all the way, creates a perfect hallway. Small thing here. Some people care a lot about this in the NFL. Some people don't care. But every one of the balls we've seen from Allen, tight rotation.
Yep.
Cut it through. And you know what? As Coach Winky taught me, good ones cut it through the wind. It's not about having this big muscle power and being all tight in your face and throwing it as hard as you can in the wind. It's about throwing a lot of spiral and rotation. As Coach Winky taught me, if you think about, you need to put a nail through a piece of wood or a screw, what requires more effort? The nail requires more effort because you have to force it, versus the screw, because it has the ridges, it's very easy to get through. Same thing with throwing in the wind. Why the hell am I telling you this story, guys? Because it makes all the sense for Buffalo to trade up to 2 to get him.
And think about who's picking 1, 2, and 3. Cleveland and New York. So you got MetLife Stadium, you got Cleveland, open-air stadiums, and then you got the Buffalo factor as well. And this guy, Josh Allen, the prototypical quarterback for an outdoor stadium in the Northeast.
Absolutely. And if you're someone who factors that into consideration, then he gets a big bump over some other guys.
Yep.
But if you're a team, maybe like, you're at the Colts, look, I'm going to be straight with you. They're not drafting a quarterback. But the reason I bring the Colts up, Peyton Manning, I don't think has ever thrown a spiral a day in his life, and he's laughing his way to the Hall of Fame. He does not care. Okay, so it doesn't always matter, but to some teams it does.
Yeah. All right, so if you watch these highlights, you're like, holy shit, he's the best quarterback of all time. But the reason why he's so tough to evaluate is there is a lot of bad to him. And there's some things with his mechanics. Now, what we're going to show, though, first, before we get to that, actually, is talking about the arm power again and sometimes how he trusts it too much. So we're going to look at a couple of situations here.
Back-to-back throws here, it looks like he really could care less to even get his feet set, honestly. Yep. He's like, I got a strong enough arm, I can make this happen. That's honestly what it looks like here. And you know what? I can't blame him. if you have that freakishly talented an arm, I understand how that can build into a bad habit. Both of these clips, as you're seeing here, guys, it's a clean pocket. He can absolutely set his feet and let it rip. Now, the good thing is I don't think this is too hard to coach. And this is something that he's been working a ton with JP, Jordan Palmer. He's been working a ton on his lower body, on his platform. I don't think this is really that hard of a thing to fix personally. But if you're going to be negative Nancy, that's completely fair. His lower body mechanics is lackluster at best.
Yeah, and I guess the question I would have for you is this. So he made a huge stride from his Senior Bowl to the Combine, but how easy is it to start resorting back to old habits again?
Well, I mean, it's easy to make this because he's not playing real football. Senior Bowl is not real football. I mean, it's so –
Combine.
Obviously, right. So he hasn't really done anything where he's really able to show that he's made this transition full time. So again, if I'm being negative Nancy, I can understand how guys can say, I'm not confident he can do this. Specifically, what he does is he gets so tall. He gets so freaking tall, and he's already a big dude. He's already a 6'5" dude. But he gets so tall in his drop that what happens then is when he has to set his feet, he instantly expands his feet. Now he's overstriding, and that's sometimes why you see that forward shoulder lean. You're not seeing the perfect weight transfer because he's overstriding, and that's something that Jordan Palmer has been working a lot with. And I think it's something that he's going to need to continue to work on too.
Yep. All right, so now we're going to see kind of more examples, not setting the feet, poor mechanics. So kind of get into this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is another example here. Look, set your feet, dude. Set your feet, set them, and put the ball over the top. There's no reason for him to be fading back here. It's not a screenplay. It's not like the guard and tackle are releasing. Just set your feet, man, and throw the ball over the top. He just gets so excited to let the ball rip. And this is a similar one, too. He's kind of in a back pedal. Honestly, Cutler used to do this all the time, and it would drive a lot of coaches. He would be a back pedal out of his drop, and then he would throw this strike because he's so freakishly arm talented. Stafford does the same thing, and you know what? Yeah, sometimes you get away with it because you have these freaking cannons of an arm attached to your shoulder, but more often than not, it's not necessarily going to be an accurate ball.
I mean, this right here, back foot, this is Josh Jackson cutting in front of this for an easy pick six.
And you know what, Adrian? The worst thing is clean pocket. I mean, it's a freaking clean pocket. Like, there's no reason to throw that off this.
Not a pick six, but I think there's another clip where he had a pick six.
The next one's going to be a pick six, I believe, against Nebraska, but this one's not completely on him.
All right, so the last clip is the wide receiver.
Yeah. Now, this is something you guys have probably heard a bunch is, a lot of drops. This ball, right in the freaking hands, man. I mean, honestly, like, Josh deserves to go sit down to the receiver and say, hey, why don't you tell me where you want me to throw the football for you? Because apparently the hands didn't work for you. Do you want me to hit you in the groin? How about your kneecaps? Where should I throw it for you to catch it? Because clearly your hands is not the spot. Because this ball is not on him. It's a little bit behind him. Fine. I'm okay with getting it's a little bit behind him. But it still should have been a completion. It damn sure shouldn't have been an interception.
So we made the comparison to Carson Wentz earlier, and here's the other comparison to Carson. Because if you remember his rookie season, all that shit that he had to play with, all the drops, all the ineptitude at wide receiver, not getting open, this is what he had to deal with at Wyoming all the time.
So did Jared Goff.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't think it's a rocket scientist situation. If you have a young quarterback, you need to load up around him. You can't expect a young quarterback to make everyone better. You expect everyone around him to make the young quarterback better. That's really what it has to be.
Yeah, so with his inaccuracy, it's a combination of the wide receivers and then also the mechanics, as we kind of showed. So the thing that I am worried about, and again, this is why it's so hard to evaluate him. It's like you see the greatness, then you see the poor mechanics, and then you look at what he did against inferior competition. Not good. Oregon, Nebraska, Iowa. The numbers weren't great. Now, some of the numbers look worse than they are because, as you saw, well, that's an interception right there. Hits the wide receiver right in the hands. It's a pick six. And I believe he threw, one touchdown, 8 interceptions against those three.
I'll get to those stats, Adrian. Keep going, buddy.
Okay. So 1 touchdown and 8 interceptions. But some of those interceptions were due to like deflections and tip passes like there. So they weren't really 8 interceptions. It was like 4 or 5 of them when you watch the tape back. Still not good.
Certainly not. And here's the thing, if you're going to say, okay, if I am going to be the anti-Josh Allen guy, my first thing is I'm going to say, show me the game where he takes over. Show me the game where he rips it and he puts the team on his back and says, I'm going to win this game. Because you know what? He only threw over 300 yards once. And that was against UNLV, and it was double overtime game. That was like a 60-60 game. So if you're, being that negative guy, here's the other things you can say. 48 of 96, and that's against Power 5 teams. Oregon, Iowa, Nebraska. He was 48 of 96. And those games, 64 yards against Oregon, 174 against Iowa, 189 against Nebraska. And here's the worst part. One touchdown, 8 interceptions against 3 Power 5 teams. Certainly not good, right? So if you're going to be that negative guy, I see it. Now, if I'm going to look at all the stats and I'm going to be positive, Adrian, I know this is where you and me kind of differ a little bit. I like Pro Football Focus. I don't necessarily use them to make my debate.
Yeah.
I think it helps to at least educate me. Awesome stat here from Pro Football Focus. When you eliminate the throwaways, the drops, the spike balls, and the batted balls at the line of scrimmage, Allen is a 65.7 completion percentage. 65.7 is more than enough for the NFL. One of the big numbers you often hear, guys, is, oh, he's below 60%, black mark of death. No, don't want to draft him. Again, if you're a stats guy, you can argue for, you can argue against it. But here's the simple fact of the matter, guys. Pat Mahomes went top 10. And Josh Allen, I think, is a much more polished prospect than Mahomes was.
There you go. I like that. And the other thing to kind of comment on, I didn't show any examples in this film study, but there were clips that I sent Brandon where he would throw the ball on the money, but the wide receiver couldn't get open because of the cornerback on him. Like he just couldn't get free. So it's like he put the ball in the right spot, but the pass would get broken up because the wide receiver couldn't cause any separation.
Big time. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. You're not seeing a lot of separation here with any of the Wyoming guys because, again, with all due respect to the Wyoming guys, it's not elite level talent. Now, if you want to argue the flip side and say, well, then why isn't Josh Allen playing at a better program? He was a late developer in high school, went to a junior college, only had one school that recruited him after the junior college, went to Wyoming.
Just like Carson Wentz!
He was a late guy who got developed and went to North Dakota State, and things turned out pretty well for him. So, again, I can argue the pros. I can argue the cons. The simple fact remains, guys, throw out whatever you think, and let's look at the true facts here. Pat Mahomes went in the top 10, and Allen is more polished than Pat Mahomes. Do I think Allen should be the number 1 pick? No. But I understand his upside is very, very valuable for the NFL.
All right, one more thing. And I kind of lost my thought because it's late when we're recording this, and I'm forgetting now. Okay, this is what it was. All right, so the inaccuracy part. You can definitely say he's inaccurate. So how inaccurate is he? Because the less than 60% thing, I think people are way overrating that, like way looking into that. But there's definitely some inaccuracy issues there.
Yeah, that's certainly fair, Adrian. I think the ultimate, like I used that Pro Football Focus, they said he's about 65.7. I think his 2017 season was probably like 59. So essentially the accuracy difference is like 6%. So whether you care about it or not, that's one way to look at it. To me, I think his inaccuracy is an issue. It's a very fair issue. I personally care a lot more about accuracy than I care about arm power because I think you can strategize around arm power, i.e. Kirk Cousins is laughing his way to the bank and he doesn't have the strongest arm in the NFL, but he's getting paid like it. So I would still take Darnold over Allen, but I certainly get where the upside is with him.
All right. Do you have a quarterback comparison for this? Do you want to play that little game?
It's honestly, Adrian, this one's tough to do because the ones you hear for him are all just like so obvious. Big Ben, Carson, Cam. I mean, they're all fair. I don't think he's the athlete Cam is. I think he's probably closer to Carson. I think that's probably the closest comparison in the NFL today.
Yeah, that's the one that I make, except I don't think he's as accurate as Carson or has the upside of Carson, but I think there's definitely a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. I would have taken Carson and Goff over any of the quarterbacks in this draft class. Let me put it that way.
I'm with you there. I agree with you there. Yep. And just one last thing before we depart. So I wonder how many times he had over 30 pass attempts, because it seemed like he didn't a lot. And that plays into the yards thing and 300-plus yards, because I think even in that Potato Bowl, he was like 13 to 23, but he threw 3 touchdowns. And his tape was actually really impressive in that game. We showed some clips from that. So it just kind of shows how stats sometimes can be a little bit misleading.
That's totally fair, Adrian. I just did a quick search for you while you were kind of chatting.
Yep.
In the it looks like here I'm able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8 out of 22. He was throwing 30 plus. And I would say some of those 30 pluses are like 31, 32. There's not a lot that are really over the top.
Yeah, so you're not looking at a guy that's like in this spread attack where he's throwing it 40, 50 times a game. So there you go.
Like I always said when it comes to stats, if stats was the only thing that mattered, then Texas Tech would have the number 1 drafted quarterback every single year because they throw the ball 1,005 times, and Luke Falk would win 4 Heisman trophies. So stats aren't the only thing that matters. Sure, they help make an argument, but you can't base an argument only on stats.
And that's the biggest reason why I wanted to do this film study. I wanted to debunk some of the myths, because there are people that are making assumptions. All right, well, he doesn't throw many yards, and what was the other one? And his completion percentage. So there you go. All right, that's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedke. I'm sure this was our longest film study yet, but such an intriguing prospect is Josh Allen.
Big time. Appreciate it.
Later.